What do you mean it's on the cloud? Where's the cloud? Where's my stuff, man? Hey, my name is Mr. K, and welcome to another episode of 5-Minute Computer Science. Today, we're going to be looking at storage devices. So, when you click save, where do you save your work? What does it mean to be on the cloud? We're going to be looking at different types of storage devices. So, let's talk about RAM. Let's talk about ROM. Let's talk about internal, external hard drives. So, let's put 5 minutes on the clock and let's make this happen.
Okay, let's have a look at RAM and ROM. Now, you should be familiar with this from school. However, we'll spend a few minutes having a quick look through this. Primary memory. Remember that? That's all that RAM and ROM are. And RAM, of course, is volatile, which means that if you have anything in RAM, it will lose its memory when you turn the PC off. But what does RAM actually do? Well, RAM is basically a go-between from the hard drive to the CPU, okay? And it works both ways. Anything in the hard disk needs to be moved into RAM, then into the cache memory, then into the CPU, and vice versa. The CPU first uses up the cache memory, very fast, very expensive, then it uses up RAM, very fast, not so expensive, then virtual memory, and then disk storage. And of course, as you're going along this way, it's getting slower, but cheaper. But bear in mind that RAM is just a go-between. So, read-only memory is very similar to RAM memory in that it's primary, however, it's read-only. Data is once burnt onto it or wrote onto it, and then that's it. The data remains on the actual memory chip. So, typical uses are for a PC, a BIOS program, which basically stands for Basic Input-Output System, and it's the instructions needed to power up a PC or store and find an operating system. And ROM chips are used for that because you'll never need to read to it and write to it at the same time. It's always going to be read only. Feel free to pause and have a read through that. Now there are of course other storage devices that you need to be familiar with. So if we're not going to store data in RAM, then we need to store it somewhere else. If we store it in RAM, we turn the PC off, the data is lost. But when we use storage devices like a hard disk, then we can save that data. So storage device is basically anywhere where you're storing data to keep when the PC is switched off. So your CD, your USB, your hard drive, your any other kind of card that you might use might well be a pretty useful secondary storage device. Bearing in mind the secondary storage devices are non-volatile, which means when the power is cut off, the data remains there. Here's an example of a typical storage device, the hard disk. Hard disks are very cheap to buy and have a huge amount of capacity. The main thing bearing in mind here is that a hard disk typically has platters. Platters need to be spun, the read-write head needs to move over the platter to read it. So whilst they are actually large in capacity, they are slow in processing speeds because the data needs to be read and then fetched from the hard drive to RAM and so on and so forth. The other thing to bear in mind is that the hard drive is magnetic. It stores data zeros and ones through a magnetic medium. The alternative to a hard disk and magnetic storage is of course optical storage, your CDs, your DVDs and those kind of things. Now, whereas a hard drive uses magnets, optical storage uses lasers to burn on zeros and ones or at least voltages. Now, depending on the kind of laser that you use, red or blue, and Blu-ray, red or blue laser, there's a huge amount of data that you can add to a CD, a DVD or a double layer DVD. But these are pretty cheap, they're pretty portable, and they can be used for backups and those things pretty quickly. Alright, let's have a look at virtual memory. So virtual memory is the CPU thinking, well, I'll tell you what, I've run out of cache memory, okay? I've run out of RAM memory, and so I need some more memory. And so what the PC does is it looks inside RAM to see if there's anything not currently being accessed by the CPU, not so important, and it shifts it over to the virtual memory or the hard disk, and then that frees up a little bit of space in RAM for other data. And eventually when needed, the virtual memory will shift things back into RAM. So it's actually part of the hard drive, which is acting like RAM, but that does slow it down. Two other bits of memory you need to be familiar with. One is solid state. Now there's different types of solid state, slow storage, fast storage, but today SSDs are very fast and they can replace hard drives. You can get some pretty big SSD storage, and of course because there's no moving parts, they're much quicker. Hard drive has to be spun and the platters need to be to speed and the read-write head has to read it all. They're really slow, but solid state memory is very quick, and so today lots of people are moving over there. Finally then, the last thing we look at is cloud storage. Now, cloud storage is essentially you being able to place data on somebody else's server or somebody else's hard drive via an internet connection. That is pretty much what it is, nothing more. Okay, the actual process is just a matter of you uploading your data onto the cloud. That is an internet connection that goes and connects with another PC somewhere else. The only downside is security. If your data is on somebody else's network, then is there a security issue? Think about that for a few minutes. Feel free to pause this and have a look. Otherwise, thank you for watching another episode of 5 Minute Computer Science.